So the best way I think to see concurrency is think about it like multiple script tags in your HTML. So let's suppose we have 3 script tags like in this order, like A, B, C. So before React 18, React would process these state updates in the order in which they are written. It's synchronous. So what happens is that after the previous one has completed, only then the next state update will get executed. So now in React 18, you can tell, okay, this is an important update and this is not. So React can defer those state updates. We don't have scripts, but it's these state updates which are being deferred. So now React can pause, interrupt, and abandon a render. Now let's suppose we have a bunch of items. So there are like 1,000, or I think I've created 5,000 items. And now we are just going to filter these items by just typing in that input box. I know some of you might say that, okay, why don't we use pagination here and just filter it on the server? But just for the sake of example, we have a bad code and it's 5,000 on the client. So how would you usually write the code? We'll create 2 states. One is for the filter and another one is for setting the filtered items, right? And now on the input change, we are going to call the function filter items. And then we'll go through the filter items and display the list of filtered items. In the filter items method, I'm going to just get a value for what user has typed in the input. And then we'll just filter it and set states of filter and filtered items. Now let's see how it is behaving. So I am able to filter, and so it's a bit sluggish, but you cannot notice it right now because you cannot see me typing. But let me just try to clear this input box. So I have already pressed back, but it took a while, right? It took a while for the input box to get cleared. I'll do it again and you can notice like what is happening. So my hands are up. Okay, now it gets re-rendered. So what is happening here is that both the input box as well as the list of items, both are getting rendered at the same time. So what React is doing here, it's batching these state updates. And what's happening here is that this filtered items update is taking long time because there are like 5,000 items and a browser takes time to update it. So what can be the possible solution here? Think of it again like how would we defer like script tags, right? We deferred a script tag, and here we want to do the same thing. We just want to defer the slower update so that user sees as he types, right? So what we can do is like we'll defer the filtered items. And how we can do it in React is that with useTransition and useDeferredValue. So these are the 2 hooks which help us in deferring some of the slow executing updates. So what we can do here is that first we will import useTransition, and in useTransition it returns us 2 things. One is pending and start transition. Now in order to defer any update, we need to wrap that update inside start transition. So now this says that okay, after React is free, so at the end, React does another separate update to update just the filter items. So this update has been deferred. Now let's see what kind of difference it makes in our code. So now I type and then I'm clearing. And here you see the input box is instantly cleared, but the filtered items, it got cleared just now, right? So we are able to show user a good experience because it's a very bad UX if user is typing and he's not able to see, okay, what I typed, it's taking longer. So we know that, okay, this is an urgent update and what is not an urgent update, so we just deferred it. But it improves the perceived performance. So this is one way to do it. And what is one more interesting thing about useTransition is that it also returns us is pending. So we know that when the state has been updated, so we know when it's ready. So till the time we know that the transition is still happening, so we can show a loading state. So we can do like if it's in pending, then show loading. Otherwise, show the list of filtered items. And how this looks is that, let me play it and So now you saw a loading for a bit of time, right? So now we saw that, okay, this is still in progress, and it's okay if the user knows that something is happening. Now let's imagine this code on the left-hand side, you don't have control of it. Maybe it's like coming from some API, you are just writing a function on the right, and you are already getting a list of filtered items. And so now you cannot set the states. You don't have control over setting the state of filtered items, and you cannot wrap it inside useTransition because you're not allowed to change that code. So in that case, another way can be that we use useDeferredValue. So what we'll do is that we'll import useDeferredValues, and we'll defer the list of items and then loop over the deferred items. And this will give us the exact same result as we got with the useTransition. So both of them give us same results, but useDeferredValue is used when you don't have control over the state update of the value you want to defer. And the another thing is that it also does not return is pending. So you don't know when this update was completed, when it started. So this is the difference, but when you see that usually we prefer to use useTransition because it gives you like more control. But when you still don't have a control over the state updates, so then you can use useDeferredValue. One thing to note here is that both useDeferredValue and useTransition is doing an extra render at the end, right? So if you use it too much, then it will be too many renders. So it's not going to improve your performance, but make it worse. So just make sure whenever you are using it, just use it wisely.